Go ahead and shoot me!
Jim! Trying to.
Shoot me!
Stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down.
Patriots like LaVoy Finicum recognize that remaining idle and refusing to stand for what is right will be the end of freedom, the downfall of this nation. There will be no America for our children or their children. And when good common folk find themselves facing a government that has become so imperious in its power that it is willing to abuse and threaten its citizens, they stand up. They stand together.
With all the fervor of my soul, I believe that God intended man to be free. And then he went on to say that rebellion against tyranny is a righteous cause. So there you have it. That's exactly how I feel. It's good to read and hear other people that feel the same way.
As America grew, the federal government sought to take control of more than 1/3 of all public lands. Responsibility for managing those lands for use by the American people was stripped from the states and given to the Bureau of Land Management, a federal agency created in 1946. This agency exists to serve Americans and has been entrusted to manage our land. However, the Constitution does not provide means for the federal government to own any land outside of the District of Columbia. It was our founding fathers' intent to establish supreme power held by the sovereign states, the federal government serving the states. When power is centralized, those in control of the power become tyrants, and our federal government is rapidly becoming tyrannical.
And I've never been one to try to cause problems. I didn't get in trouble in school. I always raised my hand. I always stood in line. To this day, I do not have a speeding ticket yet. So it's not in my nature to go out and poke my finger in people's eyes. But there's a time when we need to come and stand up for the Constitution. I think it's important that I kind of clarify some things. People may think that I'm anti-government or I'm anarchist, and I'm certainly not. I believe in government. I believe in the federal government. We need the federal government. How else are we going to protect our country, protect our borders, keep commerce regular amongst the states? That's what the federal government's for. Unfortunately, they seem to be doing a poor job about our country and our borders. But I do believe in government, and I believe in the proper relationship between the states and the federal government and the counties.
We used to could walk up to them and talk with the FBI agents in a friendly manner, unarmed and stuff, but the tenor has changed. They have become more hardened. And when they step out of their vehicles, now they're stepping out with their rifles, and they're not willing to engage in friendly dialogue.
LaVoy Finicum stood against that power and it cost him his life. Stand By Me for Liberty is a movement that emerged shortly after LaVoy Finicum's assassination. It is based on the efforts of ranchers everywhere who stand together to bring attention to the tyranny of the Bureau of Land Management and the abuse of common Americans. The time is now for Americans to stand and resist the heavy hand of the federal government, to see the sovereign authority of the states restored, and to see America return to a land that is free and just for all who love liberty.
And lo and behold, it was my dad that was murdered. I have heard countless times, I would have been there, but I have children. I would have been there, but I have a business or other personal responsibilities. My dad had 11 children, 19 grandchildren, and little did he know, 5 on the way. He had a ranch. We had cows missing. He needed to be out there gathering cows. Yet he was in Oregon standing for his neighbor that he had never met. This might offend some people, but I'm a little past caring. No offense. But if I hear one more time that I would have done something, but I had children, do not hide behind your children, because one day, if you keep hiding, they will feel the chains of slavery so tight that they will look up to you and resent you. Yes, sir. Yes, you go. I was so angry at my dad. I was so angry at him for leaving me to stand for someone else. But little did I know that he was standing for me and for my children. The chains of slavery bind us. It just is a matter of how tightly you feel them right now. They are there, and they are tightening. So if you do not stand now, they will be so tight that your ability to throw them off will be little to none. And it will be on your hands, the blood of patriots and Americans, and probably your children. So tell me where you draw the line. We live in Texas. We understand what that line means. So you better draw one, and you better stand. Because my dad already did, my family is. Come October, the BLM has told my family that we are not allowed to put our cows back on the range because they do not recognize my mother as owner and fees that need to be paid or whatever. Come hell or high water, that is our land, and they will be back on their ranch October. Please find your line, and please stand. I'm grateful for all of y'all here today, for the love my family has felt. My dad often quoted this: when a man stands for freedom, he stands with God. And were he to stand alone, he would still stand with God. What more do we honestly need? I was hoping that in this case, it would mean that would protect his life. God would protect his life. That did not happen. But God, you have to have faith that God will take care of it. Because of many of you here, and many more across the world, my mom has been able to financially stay afloat. My mom's paying $6,000 a month right now for hay on feed because the BLM is giving her heck. But it's because of many of you and your generosity that she has been able to pay that and stay afloat. And many of the political prisoners' families. So thank you for being God's hand in so many ways.
Hello, America. If you don't know me, I'm LaVoy's youngest daughter, Tiana Finicum. And I'm out here on the ranch, and while I was riding, checking on the cows, a few thoughts came to my mind, and I felt I should share them with you. The first one is about a comment people would tell me after my dad's death. And they would say that I have a great legacy to live up to now. As I thought about that, I realized I'm not the only one that has a legacy to live up to. We, the American, people have the Founding Fathers' legacy to live up to. Our Founding Fathers died for our freedoms. They created our freedoms. Well, not created, but they secured our freedoms. And many men back then gave their lives. For these past few generations, we have not lived up to that legacy. We have let the knowledge of the Constitution and of our forefathers be brushed to the side. So I ask you, America, to pick up the Constitution, to learn of our forefathers, the true forefathers, and know what our true freedoms are. The second thing I'd like to share with you today is my dad's quote. I'm sure all of you have heard it. And he said, "There's few things in this world worth dying for. Freedom's one of them." I'm here to tell you today, America, that I stand by that, and I stand with him. I'm willing to fight and defend our freedoms, and to die for them. And I ask you, America, to stand with me. Put aside our differences, put aside our bickerings, and stand for what really matters. Stand for the freedom of this country. So, learn of the knowledge of the Constitution and stand on it. Stand with me and stand with our families. Do not let what happened and what's happened for years go without reckoning. Thank you, America. Have a good day.
Right after my father died, I got really involved and active because how could our government kill a man and then get away with it? You know, and I knew this man, no matter what the media said, no matter how they portrayed him, they couldn't ever change my mind because I knew him. He was my father. And I just couldn't believe it. Our government would kill a man and then say he was a bad guy. And it was a lie. And, I was naive. I felt like somebody told me Santa Claus wasn't real. That our government wasn't the good guy. And I was in shock. And I was heartbroken. And I was heartbroken. You guys, I'm going to try not to cry. But after that happened, I just couldn't sit still. I was so afraid to talk to people. I was so afraid to get out of my comfort zone. I had 4 little babies. I lost my dad, but I couldn't sit still while my dad was being vilified by the media and by our government and being crucified and being told all these lies to people. That I'd get messages telling me how glad they were that my dad was dead because he was a terrorist. And I'm like, what? My dad was not a terrorist, okay? He was like the sweetest man you've ever met, okay? And people would always ask me, well, what do we do? They would hear my dad's story and they'd ask, what should we do? What should we do? And I'm like, I don't know. All I can tell you is that our government is killing people. And then vilifying them to where we think it's okay. And I didn't know what to tell you what to do because I didn't know. I was just a little girl that lost her dad, okay? And my mom came down because, as many of you know, she's been traveling in the country sharing these documentaries on my dad and everything that happened up in Harney County. And I was like, yeah, I can help out, I can help try to set up some things. So I was helping her. And then I started, just that feeling of freedom and desire to do something. You can't just sit still anymore. It was just growing in me. And as I sat down and I watched the second part of the documentary, and I learned things. I learned things that I didn't know. And it made me so angry to see that it was worse than I even thought it was. And I didn't know, because, the media doesn't tell you the truth. Heaven forbid. And I learned things, and I realized that I couldn't sit still any longer. And the best part is, now when my mom speaks, I've met this man named Mark. He works with the Center for Self-Governance. And I've been, listening to him talk here and there. He said something that blew my mind. I thought civics, you guys, there are 3 branches of government. And that's pretty much my civics knowledge, okay? But civics is so much more than that. And I'm learning this. And I have so much more to learn is what I'm learning. And now I actually know of things you can do. And I have a place to go to learn more. And I'm just so much something Mark said is my dad's I know there are, 50 million Americans that would be willing to stand for freedom. And Mark's well, where are they? And I'm yeah, where are they? How do you find them? Let's find these people. Let's find them. And it's exciting. And at the same time, it's daunting because it's where are you? My dad truly believed there were 50 million Americans that were willing to stand up for freedom. And standing for freedom is more than just being yeah, 4th of July, if you know what I mean. It is work. It is work to be a free man. It is so easy to be a slave. And I just can't get over how much easier it is to be a slave. When I look at it, I'm yeah, as long as you give us our TV, give us our Netflix, I'll be a slave, right? But I know my father was right. I know there are people that would stand for freedom if they knew how. And I want to know who you guys are. Why should my dad's story matter to you guys? Because they took a good man, said he was a terrorist, killed him in cold blood, and now want to get away with it. That could have been you. That could have been your father. That could have been your brother. That could have been your son. So what should matter? My family isn't fighting this, for my dad. He's dead. He's gone. We can win that court case, and he will still be dead, and he will still be gone. And it won't matter. It won't matter with his life. Whether we win or lose, we fight this battle because we don't want it to happen to someone else. My dad did this for us kids and for our kids, his grandkids, and he did it for his fellow Americans because he was so sick of seeing people like the Hammonds lives be torn up and no one do anything, because who wants to stand against the big bully of the federal government? Nobody wants to stand against them. They're scary. They kill you, tell everyone you are a terrorist, and then walk away, while the family is left to pick up the pieces and get stepped on and trampled on by people who don't know any better and think he was a terrorist. I don't want it to happen to anyone else. And if we don't stand up and if we don't educate ourselves, it will continue to happen to other people. I just met one of the child survivors from Waco, and hearing their story, I was just I knew Waco was bad. I didn't know it was that bad. And it happened again. All these things keep happening. So it should matter. You should step up. We should be finding those 50 million Americans and educating the mass so that this doesn't happen again. We were talking over breakfast. It was Mark's we have to consider things, different routes. And when we started out with this wrongful death fight, we're we're not taking the settlement. If the government settles with us, we're not taking it. We want to take them to court. We want to get all the gory details out. We want America to see how bad this actually was. But like I made the comment that, maybe it'd be nice because I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting and begging fellow Americans to open their eyes and to, for a minute, turn off their TVs and for a moment of their day come and learn what is going on in this country. Come and do something. And then as the day went on, I just felt so bad that I would even say that. Because if we just stop fighting, and if we were to just give up, then whose dad would be next? Who would be next? Like my dad gave his life. Is it not worth it for me to keep going a little bit longer? Even though I am tired. Even though I just want him back.
Good night, folks. God bless each and every single one of you. Good night, Pooh, my darling sweetheart. Good night, Allison, you vibrant little bundle of joy. You know, this house is haunted. I can hear you girls screaming and playing all the time. Annie, you're the love of my life. You always will be the love of my life. And I miss you. I miss you all terribly, terribly much.